this hour on VTV News. Prime Minister emphasizes calm and flexible approach in trade talks with the U.S. Vietnam's wood industry adapts strategy amid U.S. tariff pause. In the world news, tariff tensions dominate IMF World Bank spring meetings.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good afternoon. It is now 3 p.m. local time in Hanoi, and you're watching VTV News. I'm Phie bringing you the latest updates. Now, meeting voters in Củ Chi and Hóc Môn districts ahead of the 9th session of the National Assembly, State President Luong Khương affirmed his willingness to fulfill his duties as a representative of the people. The Vietnamese state president noted that under the leadership of the party, National Assembly and the government, many important policies and long-term strategic plans have been introduced and implemented. These include administrative reforms, restructuring government agencies, the improvement of local governance, the elimination of temporary and dilapidated houses, the development of social housing, and the abolition of school fees for students. Regarding Ho Chi Minh City, State President Luong Khương urged the city to seize the opportunities ahead and continue to lead in implementing revolutionary policies and strategies. Now, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính chaired a meeting on Tuesday morning with key government ministries and the government's trade negotiation teams to discuss trade issues with the United States. The leader stated that Vietnam has proactively implemented comprehensive measures, including political, diplomatic, and commercial initiatives, as well as engagement with U.S. businesses. These actions align with the party's policies and have yielded positive initial results, which have been acknowledged by the U.S. Looking ahead to upcoming negotiations, the Prime Minister stressed that the talks should aim to promote balanced, sustainable, and long-term trade. He urged the negotiation team to remain calm, flexible, and timely, ensuring that Vietnam's core interests are protected while respecting the interests of other nations and international agreements. The 2025 spring meetings of the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) will take place in Washington from April the 21st to the 26th. Analysts expect tariffs and bilateral trade negotiations to dominate this year's agenda. In a pre-meeting statement, the IMF Managing Director warned that U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policy has clouded economic forecasts and threatens to increase debt pressures on developing economies. The IMF's latest World Economic Outlook is expected to show a sharp downgrade in global growth, not due to recessions, but rather to heightened market uncertainty surrounding tariff risks. Vietnam faces a range of potential impacts on its agricultural sector as U.S. tariffs rise, with the Institute of Policy and Strategy for Agriculture and Rural Development outlining 3 scenarios for the industry's future. The Institute suggests that Vietnam should engage in intensified talks with the United States to secure tariff exemptions for strategic farm products, while also strengthening measures to improve origin traceability. Under the first scenario, a uniform 10% tariff would have a minimal impact on exports and growth targets. However, a 20% tariff, if agreed upon by both nations, could lead to a 20% drop in export value by the second half of 2025. In the worst-case scenario, a 46% tariff on Vietnamese goods would result in a 40% decrease in exports during the same period. Should this worst-case scenario unfold, Vietnam's agricultural growth could drop by 0.3 to 0.4 percentage points, bringing the full-year growth down to between 3.6% and 3.8%. The 90-day delay in retaliatory U.S. tariffs presents a critical window of opportunity, allowing Vietnamese businesses to both address immediate pressures and reshape their long-term strategies. The wood industry, among the most affected sectors, now races to adapt, diversify, and protect its market share.
In this company, manufacturing workers are rushing to complete Q2 orders with revenue secured. Meanwhile, sales teams are urgently deploying two key strategies: sourcing cheaper raw materials and cutting profit margins to remain competitive against rivals.
We're planning to reduce profit margin by 7 to 10%. We're also cutting production and logistic costs. That's the only way to stay competitive.
Amid these challenges, businesses are pursuing win-win solutions. Vietnamese companies are exploring increased U.S. imports, particularly sawnwood, roundwood, and veneer, to help balance bilateral trade. The Vietnam Timber and Forest Products Association and leading exporters are also preparing evidence should the U.S. conduct hearings on the mutual benefits of the trade relationships.
The U.S. is a huge market, and the wood industry is closely tied to real estate. Without wooden furniture and fittings, the real estate sector can't really move forward.
In the long run, many still want to maintain their Vietnamese suppliers. Even after exploring new supply chains in Chile, Argentina, and Ecuador, Vietnamese prices remain the most competitive.
In the good industry where I'm at, we're competing with basically with Chile, Brazil, Argentina, a little bit in Ecuador. So, and those countries pretty much, they have 10% tariff.
As the countdown continues, no one can say for sure what the U.S. next move will be. However, Vietnam's wood industry is navigating the uncertainty with flexibility, strategy, and speed.
Now, the government is strengthening oversight of goods origin verification, ensuring transparency from fiber to timber extraction. In the first quarter of this year, Vietnam faced 3 investigations from the U.S. and EU for tax circumvention due to companies lacking proper traceability documentation. The Vietnam Textile and Apparel Association has warned businesses to comply with new U.S. and EU requirements on raw material origins and labor standards. The U.S. Forced Labor Prevention Act and new EU regulations specifically require traceability down to the fiber level. Similarly, the Vietnam Timber and Forest Product Association requires businesses to document timber origin, extraction coordinates, production methods, and third-party certifications. Ho Chi Minh City's economy expanded by over 7.5% in the first quarter of 2025, its strongest Q1 performance in 6 years. However, this still falls short of the city's 8.5% annual growth target. Experts suggest that unlocking private investment is critical to closing the gap and accelerating to 8 to 9% in the second quarter of this year.
Over the past year, a local biodegradable plastics manufacturer has tripled its production capacity. The company credits its growth to rising global demand for eco-friendly solutions and maintaining strong performance despite global trade instability.
We're working with markets in Europe, Japan, and Australia, where demand for green tech products is strong. These markets also offer incentives and support for sustainable innovations.
In Q1, the private sector injected over $2.4 billion into Ho Chi Minh City's economy, marking a 12% year-on-year increase. Private capital remains the dominant force, accounting for more than half of the city's total investment. To reach the city's full-year target, experts urge bold policy reforms to mobilize the private sector in tackling major urban development challenges.
City leaders should assign growth mandates directly to private enterprises. If we aim to develop a railway line, we could invite major corporations to take charge. This approach would generate more projects and help unlock capital.
However, the business environment remains under pressure. New market entries dropped by more than 20%, while business closures rose by over 10% compared to last year. In response, city officials are pushing for meaningful administrative reform, pledging to cut at least 30% of unnecessary licensing procedures and reduce processing times.
We lack a one-stop mechanism for attracting investors. We must take decisive action to build the system, restore investor confidence, and bring capital back.
The authorities are deploying public investment to attract private capital into high-tech and innovation sectors. These industries have strong potential for value creation and could provide the breakthrough needed to achieve the city's double-digit growth ambitions.
Along with economic growth, Vietnam continues to show positive signals for foreign direct investment, or FDI. In the first quarter of this year, 50 provinces and cities recorded foreign investment inflows. 4 localities reported FDI exceeding $1 billion, with Bắc Ninh leading at nearly $1.9 billion in registered investment, more than doubled compared to the same period last year, followed by Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. The Foreign Investment Agency noted that provinces and cities attracting substantial foreign capital share key advantages such as good infrastructure, a stable workforce, streamlined administrative procedures, and proactive investment promotion activities. Now, before we move on to other important updates, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate of today, April the 22nd. Coming up next, concert Peace Symphony commemorates Reunification Day. Vietnam increases flight frequency to Ho Chi Minh City. Welcome back to VTV News. Party General Secretary To Lâm attended the special concert program Peace Symphony, organized to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and National Reunification Day. The concert featured the Ho Chi Minh City Ballet Symphony Orchestra and Opera and was divided into 2 parts, blending classical world masterpieces with timeless Vietnamese songs and famous movie soundtrack excerpts, such as Hello Liberation Soldier, We Are Vietnamese Police, and Country Full of Joy. The concert honored the spirit of solidarity and yearning for peace while evoking national pride, paying a tribute to the sacrifices of previous generations who secured peace and reunification for the country. After signing of the Paris Peace Accords in 1973, which sought to end the war in Vietnam, U.S. imperialists and the Saigon government show clear signs of violating the agreement through military escalations. Anticipating this, the Politburo of the Vietnamese Communist Party remained vigilant, continuing to build up forces and prepare for strategic offensives. The most significant of these was the dry season campaign of 1974 to 1975, a pivotal operation across the Mekong Delta that laid a solid foundation for the final victory on April 30th, 1975.
Before the ink had dried on the Paris Agreement, the Saigon government launched an aggressive territorial campaign, pushing deep into rural areas to seize land and control the civilian population. Leaders in Military Zone 9 responded by ordering their forces to hold their ground, support the formation of revolutionary committees, and rapidly establish political and military networks.
We were determined to eliminate the TARIFF stronghold. We stayed hidden until 4 a.m. when the enemy let their guard down, thinking we were just guerrillas. That's when we launched a surprise attack, captured the entire outpost in just 30 minutes.
Even after the Paris Accords, the Saigon army retained a formidable presence in the Mekong Delta. In response, provinces continued expanding their forces.
Every province developed 1 to 2 battalions, some had up to 3. Cà Mau was the strongest, growing to 12 battalions.
Building on their unstoppable momentum, the armed forces and people of Mekong Delta unleashed a wave of offensives. In the Vĩnh Cha direction, Regiments 1 and 3 eliminated 8 enemy subdistricts. Across Military Zone 8, nearly 1,000 enemy outposts were destroyed or forced to surrender, steadily expanding liberated zones and inflicting heavy losses on the enemy's main forces, laying a firm foundation for the final victory in the spring of 1975.
It's clear that without these campaigns, the spring offensive might have been delayed. It disrupted the enemy's last stand plan.
The campaign's success was sweeping and decisive. It left the enemy reeling, the morale collapsed, their units fell into disarray, and confusion spread rapidly. This destabilization became the launching pad for the final uprising and offensive in spring 1975, culminating in the Ho Chi Minh Campaign that ended the long war against the U.S.
Now, more than 800 artists and performers, including veterans performers, will take the stage at Meeting National Stadium tonight, April the 22nd, in a show celebrating the historic spirit of national reunification. As part of the event, Hanoi will host a firework display to mark the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and national reunification. The 15-minute spectacle will feature both high and low altitude fireworks. A second fireworks celebration will take place on April the 27th at Thống Nhất Park in Hai Bà Trưng District. A total of 150 artifacts and documents were introduced to the public at the exhibition titled The Landscape of a United Country on Tuesday morning by the Vietnam National History Museum. The collection is divided by time periods from July 1954 to June 1956, featuring key events such as the Northern people welcoming Southern soldiers, the North's socialist construction, the founding of the Liberation Army of South Vietnam, and the Liberation Front flag flying over the Saigon Presidential Palace. The exhibition helps the public gain a deeper understanding of the country's drive for unification and the unbreakable bond between the North and South. The exhibition will remain open until August of 2025. Moving on to other news, Vietnamese Airlines will increase flight frequency to Ho Chi Minh City during the April 30th, May 1st holiday period to meet rising travel demand. Due to high ticket demands, airfares on some routes to Ho Chi Minh City have increased by 20 to 50% during the peak holiday period. The Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam has directed airlines to adjust flight schedules based on actual demand, particularly on the Hanoi-Ho Chi Minh City routes. Airlines must monitor ticket sales and prioritize off-peak and nighttime flights to reduce daytime airport congestion. For today's generation to enjoy peace, generations of forefathers had to shed their blood for the nation's independence and freedom, including soldiers who once operated in the students' movements of Saigon Gia Định. They faced countless near-death experiences under the brutal torture of the enemy, yet never wavered for even a second. Now, Tư Liêm, one of the former soldiers, remains devoted to bridging the present with history through the pages of books written in honor of her fallen comrades.
Overwhelmed with emotion as he read the book gifted by his former commander, Dinh Bùi Chu felt like he was reliving the moments of anticipation for victory.
Thanks to the book, I can recall my young days in the army, even though I'm old now.
For 2 years, Tư Liêm devoted herself to reconnecting with her former comrades. What seemed like an easy task turned out to be a challenge, completing over 500 pages filled mostly with untold stories.
The people in the book are now old and their memory has faded. They are no longer as sharp as they once were. I needed to preserve their story as a gesture to those who have endured so much.
For this cause, many individuals who never wished to speak about themselves can now share their historical role with today's generation.
During the war, young people are everywhere, ready to contribute their strength in response to the co-op party and alcohol.
For the soldiers who have lived through the war, their stories are always filled with emotion, serving as a reminder for today's generation to take pride in the country's heroic traditions.
Coming up next, Russia signals readiness for direct peace talks with Ukraine. Later on, farmers in Thuận Châu adopt climate-resilient farming methods. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday proposed direct bilateral peace talks with Ukraine, saying that Moscow remains open to any peace initiative and hopes Kyiv will reciprocate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a delegation will travel to London on Wednesday for negotiations with the UK, France, and the US, seeking a resolution to the three-year conflict. Zelensky said Ukraine is ready for unconditional ceasefire talks in the most constructive spirit, with the goal of establishing lasting peace. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said on Sunday that Tehran is ready to reach a deal with the United States through ongoing indirect talks, provided that national interests are protected. Pezeshkian said Iran holds neither optimism nor pessimism about the talks. He reiterated that Iran does not seek conflict but will resist any attempt at coercion. Tehran emphasized that lifting all sanctions remains its key condition in the negotiations, which are expected to shape the framework of future nuclear discussions with Washington. Today, April the 22nd, marks 55 years since the United Nations launched Earth Day. This year's theme, Our Power, Our Planet, calls for tangible actions to protect the environment and adapt to climate change. Now in Thuận Châu, a district still bearing the scars of Typhoon Yagi, landslides has disrupted lives and landscapes. Yet local people are responding not just with resilience, but with transformation.
Traces of the violent rainy season still linger in Thuận Châu District, Sơn La Province, with over 100 landslide sites left in the wake of Typhoon Yagi. Yet the district now braces for a harsh and dry season.
Sometimes we don't even have enough water for daily use during dry season, but we're ready to adapt to disasters.
This readiness is evident in their farming practices. Unlike her parents' generation, Xuân now plants rice crops less densely. Using smart farming techniques, she reduces both seed and fertilizer usage, relieving pressure on both the land and the climate.
My mom used to handle most of the farming, but at first she said this new way wouldn't work. But now we're seeing better results in a new way and even higher rice yields.
Elsewhere in the district, farmers are returning to organic methods, reducing their environmental footprint, while surprisingly revitalizing the soil.
Chemical fertilizer doesn't last. In the dry season, plants shed their leaves too fast. But now with organic compost, the trees stay green and they don't drop as much.
Organic methods also prevent soil from hardening or becoming barren. As farmers integrate fruit trees with timber crops, the land grows more resilient. This practice of combining agriculture and forestry, known as agroforestry, has taken root.
Once people saw the economic benefits, other communities followed. They organized trips to learn from one another between districts and provinces.
The most fundamental way to prevent natural disaster is to protect our forests. Forests are the largest reservoir we have. No lake can compare. They store water incredibly well.
The Thuận Châu of today boasts full granaries, and its people stand ready for nature's challenges. They are taking charge by rewriting their relationship with the land.
An international scientific and practical conference titled The Birth of a Genius was held in Moscow on Monday to commemorate the 155th birth anniversary of revolutionary leader Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, April the 22nd, 1870, April the 22nd, 2025. The event drew participation from Russian and international scholars.
Experts highlighted Lenin's intellectual legacy as central to his greatness. As the founder of the Communist International, the Third International, and leader of the Russian people in the October Revolution, Lenin shaped the course of global history by establishing the first socialist state.
I was born and raised in the era of Lenin. To me, he remains a unique figure, an extraordinary teacher and leader. His revolutionary and scientific doctrine continues to carry profound significance today.
There are delegates here from 132 countries, a remarkable turnout, especially given the current state of the global communist movement. The world has changed, but socialism retains its relevance. As a South African delegate said, power belongs to the people. Lenin's legacy remains timely and must not be reinterpreted or distorted.
Beyond reaffirming Marxist-Leninist ideals in the modern era and promoting solidarity against imperialism, the forum also focused on safeguarding historical memory, countering historical revisionism, and defending traditional values. A shared theme among the various international groups present was the commitment to national sovereignty, and more importantly, to building a more democratic world.
And as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. And that concludes our news bulletin. To watch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or visit our YouTube channel at VTV4Go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.